There is a podcast about an island in the North Atlantic where people have been looking for an incredible treasure for more than 200 years.
Hello and welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Yo.
Hi.
Hey. We're here for another recap episode of The Curse of Oak Island.
Yes, and this time we are waterlogged.
Well, the episode was.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, I don't think anybody in particularly got too waterlogged. I know Jack was excited to get waterlogged potentially.
I think he wanted to jump in. He wanted to jump into the geyser.
Well, it was squirting up everywhere.
It was.
I mean, it was a lot. Now, there's a lot of water for No Smith's Cove.
Yeah, they weren't in the money pit.
No.
They were just hanging out up next to the cave-in pit.
They were hanging out in the uplands, if you will.
A lot of uplands.
A lot of lands of the up.
Yeah. So before we jump into this week's podcast, I just wanted to say it's kind of been a crazy week for like the world.
Yeah, seriously.
And left and right, we're looking around and sporting events being canceled and who knows what. So we just want to say, hey, everybody, be safe out there.
Yeah.
We hope you're all okay.
Yeah, we hope you're all okay. You, your family, sending good, positive health vibes out there. And
yeah, we hope we can be a little bit of a distraction from some of that crazy stuff. So we'll stop talking about it. But we just hope everybody gets through it good and wash your hands, right?
Affect our Oak Island travels, but we still have time.
Yeah, we got 2 months until we're headed to Oak Island. So we hope, we're not doctors. We're not scientists or anything.
You're not?
We don't. No, I'm not. So we just hope that things go as smooth as they can. And
So here we
craziness.
are. We're here to provide a distraction maybe during your lunch break.
Yeah, or on your commute.
I guess it really depends on where you're watching or listening to this from because worldwide.
Yeah, so like we said, it's a worldwide thing that's happening right now with the coronavirus. So just be as safe as possible and wash your hands, right?
You filthy animals.
Okay, that was a little uncalled for.
Sorry. You just teed it up, and I got something snarky to say.
I know you do. All right, well, let's talk about the Curse of Oak Island.
Oh, man. Okay, we spent a lot of time in the uplands and the swamp.
Yes.
Some time in the war room. Where else?
They went on a field trip this week.
Yes, they did. So they went over to St. Mary's.
Yep. And that was due to something they found in the uplands. So let's talk about the uplands.
Okay, leading in with the uplands. I'm game.
Yeah, so that's where the episode opens up, and we got Billy.
Yep.
Who else, right?
Who else? Billy's always there. He's early, on time, ready to dig.
Yeah, so he was there hanging out with Jack and Gary.
And Paul.
And they were just, continually. I didn't see Paul. Paul was not there.
Well, I have Paul written here, so maybe I just wrote him in.
I think Paul was taking a well-deserved week off.
Was there really no Paul this episode?
I don't think so.
But I wrote Paul in. Apparently, I missed him enough that I felt like he was there. Sorry, Paul.
It was an apparition.
It was an apparition.
You saw the. I don't know.
So
let's get.
Okay. Yeah. I scratched that.
Yeah, scratch Paul off. Paul wasn't there. Not this week. He was off doing his research somewhere. That's what he was doing. All right, so Billy was pulling out hand cut timbers.
Yeah,
and they looked like burnt, didn't they?
They look like it to me, but I'm also kind of thinking about all of the dark
material on them.
Yeah. Could have been blue clay for all we know.
Or it could have been, how when they were digging out Mike's box and there was that tar paper or what looked like tar paper. I mean, maybe it's some kind of remnants of that. So everything's so deteriorated. It's hard to know.
Well, and as wood rots, over time, then it's going to start turning kind of that blackish tarry.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it looked kind of burnt.
I agree. So. I mean, that was my initial thought.
But they didn't bring that up. So
maybe it wasn't burnt, and we're just seeing things like I'm seeing Paul there.
Yeah. So Robert Clotworthy chimes in and tells us that they're looking for the flood tunnels, and there was a flashback, which In my head right now, I'm calling them clot-worthy flashbacks.
Clot-worthy
Yeah, because it's like
flashbacks. The
it's a clot.
flashback recap?
Yeah, basically. That's what a flashback is, a recap.
Yeah.
And it's explained by Robert Clotworthy, right?
Yes.
And so a possible Shaft 5 connection, or
Mhm.
sorry, not connection, location, and that's what they had talked about last week, and the
Mhm.
find of the coconut fiber.
Yes.
So,
Coconut that was just exciting. I
yeah.
mean, it says a lot.
Yeah. Well, Jack was really impressed by the size of these pieces of wood that would be pulled out by Billy.
Mhm. There was a
And
lot of wood coming out of
I
there.
know that place looks real torn up.
Yeah, it would that whole area. I mean, for how long have we actually not been searching in this particular area? We've been trying to get underwater in Smith's Cove and in the Money Pit.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like everywhere. Instead, we've been parking equipment on top of it, and it's one of those cases of it's right under your feet, right under your tires. Look at that.
Hmm.
So much.
So much. Yep. All that stuff was just waiting there for them to find and dig up, right?
Mhm.
All right. So Gary decides to begin metal detecting in the area,
Yes.
and he finds an old spike,
Dun
right?
dun dun.
Yeah. And Billy asks him, "Hey, how old do you think that is, Gary?"
Mhm.
And Gary said, "That's 1700s, mate,"
Yeah, mate.
or
He's
something to that effect.
that was very pirate-ish. Mate,
Well, have you seen
matey.
Gary's like personal logo
His hat.
and on his hat and everything? He's a pirate. Okay,
Yeah, he's like John the
he's a
Baptist.
modern day pirate, the good guy pirate.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Gary the pirate, that works for me.
Yeah, and so he finds another spike moments
Mhm.
later, and it's almost identical to the first one. So that was promising,
Mhm.
right?
They're in immaculate shape.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah. So these finds were like a big deal
Mhm.
this week, and they were even a bigger deal than most people. Well, maybe not most people. They're such a big deal for a different reason, because we saw Gary
Oh
dig
yeah.
it out with a shovel on his own.
I
He
don't
didn't make Jack go and get the shovel and dig it. And the internet,
went crazy.
there was a storm of comments about Gary using a shovel.
Because, a couple episodes we said we saw him say, "I don't dig my own holes." Dustin even paused it when we were watching, went, "Look what's in his hand." I was like, "A shovel?" And
Gary
he's
don't
like,
dig, yo.
"My point exactly. Gary doesn't dig his own holes."
Yeah.
And I was just shocked. I don't know how I missed that huge glaring detail.
It was funny.
It was funny. I don't think he's been demoted or anything. He just I think he was trying to keep Jack out of harm's way because,
Possibly.
it was
No sketchy
a
in
little
there.
sketch over there. He's
Yeah.
like, "I got this, mate." So he went in there and went for it.
There you go.
But they were still in really great shape, like
They
I
were
was saying.
really
They're
good
like
shape.
those perfect squares.
Yep.
Still.
Yeah. They weren't corroded or anything. They were well preserved.
Yeah, that's just crazy. That's
Hmm.
mind-boggling in my opinion.
For sure. So that's the first part of the episode that deals with the uplands.
Mhm.
They do come back and they, um,
Well, you have Billy continuing to dig,
yeah, of
but
course.
you see Jack and Craig are out there, and Jack's like, "Hold up, Billy, we want to take a look." They're not quite at, yeah, they're at like 50-ish feet because they're not quite at their 60 target.
No, no, no. That they weren't that deep because they hadn't received the giant excavator yet. The giant excavator comes after they had, because they went to the war room
Okay,
and then they
yeah, we can
chatted about,
diverge off the
yeah,
uplands.
they chatted about the seismic testing done
Mhm.
by Eagle Canada.
Yeah, so War Room, we have Steve, Dave, Gary, Alex, Doug, Charles, Scott, Rick, who are going to meet with Marty and Craig via teleconference. And I would like to say that war room was like all blue shirts. It was a bit of a shocker for me because
I
usually
didn't,
they're always wearing, their same outfit.
I did not I didn't notice that whatsoever.
Apparently, I pay very close attention to the fashion of the
Well,
island, as most know.
I paid attention to one giant fashion choice at that war room table.
What?
Charles's hat.
Well, of course. He's got his classic Templar hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, it had the Templar cross. But wasn't Doug wearing a cog shirt that was black? Am I
It
wrong?
was Navy. Everybody was in Navy attire.
That's cool.
It seemed it was a unique situation to me. Not that it's at all important to the show. I just wanted to throw that out there because we talked about shirts last week.
Yes.
And I have another fashion thing that'll
What's
come
that?
up towards we're not there yet.
You're teasing it.
I'm teasing it for when we get to Mug and Anchor.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had those guys discussing the Eagle Canada seismic data taken from mostly the eastern drumlin of Oak Island, right?
Yes.
And Jeremy Church is the representative from Eagle Canada. He wasn't on this episode, but they talked about him, and he's the one that gave Marty and Craig their briefing about.
The quote is the scientific powwow.
Is that who said that?
Marty. He said they had a scientific powwow with Jeremy from Eagle Canada, and that was a new term for me.
Scientific powwow. I like
the scientific powwow.
Sure.
That's good.
It's really good.
It's a new Martyism.
Yeah, so something that I noticed, I guess this would be a Craigism, because he seems to be trying not to smile a lot.
Yes.
Like you could tell there's a lot of excitement behind his eyes and behind his mouth. Yeah. You know, he just wants to like blurt out to the world, "Oh my gosh, we're on to something." But he's like doing his best to hold back.
Oh, he's done that a lot this season, I'm noticing.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Where he's like, "Don't get too excited, don't get too excited. Don't show them that I'm excited." Craig, we want to see your excitement burst out.
Yeah, he's just doing everything he can to hold that back.
Yeah. I saw it. I saw it oozing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so from Eagle Canada, the testing showed that there was something that they call an obnoxious anomaly near the southeastern edge of the cave-in pit.
I've been called an obnoxious anomaly before.
You have?
No, but that would be funny if someone did call me that.
I thought you'd be calling me that.
You're an obnoxious anomaly. La, 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 la. Okay. La, la, la. Anyways, but that just must mean, in my opinion, that it's kind of glaringly obvious when they're looking at the data and so grossly different than what's around it for it to be obnoxious.
I thought it was more of it was something that they didn't want to see, but I mean, they want to see it because it's just something. The word obnoxious throws me off a little bit. Like, why would they say obnoxious?
Because this is brand new science going on here. They had a scientific powwow, and if you're obnoxious, you can't be ignored. So this anomaly is one that can't be ignored.
I get it.
Call me an obnoxious anomaly. Yep. Meanie head.
I'm not a meanie head. All right, so Jeremy Church from Eagle Canada said that there was a linear feature that could be a tunnel. Well, I don't think he said that. I think Marty said that. At a depth of 60 feet that extends from that anomaly through the cave-in pit toward the money pit.
That's kind of a big deal considering we saw where they were digging and hitting stuff.
To me, it's just funny hearing him say stuff like that and knowing that they're already digging. But this could have been editing, you know?
It could have.
But it doesn't make a lot of sense to show this now if it happened before and that's what got them to dig there in the first place. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
They may have also just got Eagle Canada could have potentially not been fully have all the information and data points ready to present yet, but given them, hey, right here, if you're already planning to dig in this area, because they do have a timeline. You have permits, you have only so long with the equipment, and everything is kind of off from the hurricane. Then they're okay, we still have to dig here. Can you give us something that we might be able to align with the data that we already have for digging? Because we need to get Billy to work. I mean, later in the episode, let's let Billy dig is something Jack says. I was like, yeah, I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt. Let's let Billy dig. So they probably put a point on the map and say, let Billy dig there.
Yeah. Dig.
Yeah. And they'll say, we'll get you the rest of the information next week. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Or past prediction.
Yeah. Well, okay. So going back to what they were talking about with with this obnoxious anomaly. They did show like a graphic on the screen with like an animation and representation of where this linear feature would be. And something that caught my eye was the slipway in relation to how it's or where it's positioned on this animation. I mean, the slipway looked like it was leading directly to this spot.
Yeah, I remember you pointed that out, and I was thinking, wow, that's actually really interesting. We don't know if the animation is like perfectly to
Yeah,
scale
right.
and the angles and
I
everything.
know, but
Then I got to thinking, well, if the slipway is there and it's angled right towards that, is it maybe not a flood tunnel? Is there like a additional back door over there somewhere at one time? Because if so, I mean, your easiest way to offload your crates of treasure is to take them off the slipway and just roll them right into a
your
cave
secret tunnel
or
to the
your
money pit.
secret tunnel or the bank vault or whatever it is that's there. We did find an inge in Smith's Cove, so
We did.
maybe that was actually the gates that open to let said treasure in.
Sure. Who knows? Could be anything.
It really could be. It could mean nothing because it could be just not to scale.
It could have been something from the 1600s, 1700s, or 1800s. It could have been dropped at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's. You have to remember, but you want it all to fit in one little spot.
Oh, wouldn't
But there's
that be
so many
great?
hundreds of years. Who knows? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear you. I feel you. All right. So Marty says that they should move on this to be a top priority, and everybody agrees. And
Oh,
and like I said, I was thinking, isn't this already a top priority? And they're like already pulling that whole area apart.
the whole area is
Yeah,
destroyed. No priorities here. Didn't we just see?
it is funny.
But then, isn't that when we cut over to?
2 days later, a
Yes.
shot of the giant excavator coming across the causeway. Yeah,
Here it comes.
here it comes, big old giant thing. And it was funny to hear Marty joke about. He's like, "What's this little itty bitty thing?"
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was talking to the representative from Delway Enterprises, and that's Devin Matchett, and he's the one delivering this giant piece of equipment. And he tells Marty that the reach on this is about 60 feet compared to about 30 to 35 feet on typical excavators. So almost double the reach. This is Billy in a sandbox.
Oh yeah.
Having the time of his life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's funny because also Marty asks, "Is there anything kind of we need to watch out for while we're working with it?" And he says, "It's quick, and you're gonna feel the arm on there because it is so much longer." And I was like, that makes sense. And Marty just seems so excited to get to drive this thing,
Well,
right?
yeah. So in my notes, I wrote Marty acts like he's going to be operating the excavator. LOL.
He drove it to the spot.
He got it in position, sure, but it's
Yeah.
not like he was like scooping.
It's funny because there's a shot, I need to screenshot it, where Marty climbs up into it and you get this full view of Marty, and then in the background you see Billy like looking up at him, and like there's no one around except for Marty, and like Billy longingly looking up like, why does he get to drive it first?
Yeah, well, Billy got his
Billy
time
is,
in it.
but
So.
then I also thought Billy's thinking like, hey, that's mine. Maybe let me. He was ready to go
Yeah,
because
he was. And you know how you can really tell? Literally, Robert Clotworthy comes on the screen, or his voice comes on the
yeah.
screen, and he says, "A couple hours later," and literally, Billy already has a 50-foot hole dug.
Right?
Literally, like a couple hours later, oh, you're almost at depth.
Yeah.
Like he was ready.
Yeah. Because we know this obnoxious anomaly is about 60 feet down, is what they're saying. And Billy's at 50.
Yeah,
He's
Billy's
like,
like,
I got this.
dig, 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 dig.
It's what I like to
Yeah,
do.
your little Snow White song, right?
Well,
The dwarves.
it's Snow White's dwarf's song.
Yes, but I'm just saying it's your whole like dig, dig, dig thing.
It's my dig, dig, dig thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's out there digging. And that's when we see Craig and Jack out there.
Yeah. Yep. And it was funny. Like Billy's just over there doing his thing, and then Jack stops him. And he's like, "Hey, let me take a look at this." And him and Craig like take a peek, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, never mind. Go ahead, Billy." I'm like, "Why'd you stop the progress, Jack?"
Yeah, he
Like
wanted
Billy's working here.
see what's going on, how deep they are.
I know, I'm
And
just
he said,
messing.
we should let Billy dig.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure Billy's response was, yep, or
yep.
yeah, because that's how Billy responds.
Hmm.
He's straight and to the point. He's a straight shooter, yo.
He sure is. All right. Jack notes that suddenly they had a huge rush of water
Mm-hmm.
that began to come through.
Mm-hmm.
He encourages Craig to take a look and offers to hold him by his belt buckle.
And know what he ends up doing
What?
is Craig's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And then after Jack's seeing it, you see the shot where he's holding him. My note says that he is holding Craig by the scruff of, like, because it looks like a dog carrying like its little pup around,
Yeah.
holding it by its neck. I mean, it's like the top of his shirt or whatever, but it totally looked like Jack holding him by the scruff of his
It should
neck.
be the other way around.
It should be, but I
That's funny.
appreciate him being concerned for safety,
Oh,
even if they didn't have a harness.
yeah. That whole situation is just kind of funny and kind of scary, but really funny.
Sketchy.
Yeah. So Jack said it looked like a geyser, and it looks freaking awesome.
Oh, I was like squirting everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's just funny. It's the
Yeah, it's like a geyser.
terminology they used. Freaking awesome was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, you
He
don't
was
get
stoked.
anything. You don't get something like that every day.
Yeah.
So everybody's freaking out. We don't see the phone calls made to Marty and everybody, but people keep just showing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously it's been made. Marty practically comes running.
Mm-hmm.
Gary joins. Marty asks if we know if it's fresh or salt water. And
Mm-hmm.
my first response was, did you want to taste it? Or like, Billy, get a scoop and let's see.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna be slurping that to
I
make sure or
mean,
not.
it's kind of like building their immune system.
Yeah.
So maybe.
The only one that I would guess would do it is Jack due to enthusiasm only.
Yeah, that's
know?
true. You could smell if it's fresh or salt. But
Perhaps they are surrounded by salt water though, so that might might be a little difficult to distinguish.
oh, I see what you mean because they're near the shore.
Mm-hmm. But so one thing that I thought was quite funny is okay. So Marty says that they can't be sure that they found the flood tunnels, but from what he sees and hears, there's a lot of water rushing into the spot. And then you hear Robert Clotworthy say, "Suddenly," and that's all he says.
It's very dramatic.
Yeah, very dramatic. And then like you see like parts of the uh, hole kind of start collapsing in on itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
As he says, it unfortunately it's done what it's designed to do, which
yeah.
is a fort would be treasure hunters from getting to it.
They were thwarted.
So everybody's concerned. They step away. They're like, nope. Jack says, not worth it. Everybody runs.
And Billy is tasked with filling the hole.
Yeah. Billy's in this giant piece of equipment, that puts pressure on the hole. Everybody's running except for Billy's like, I don't have a helmet. I'm in shorts. I'm hardcore.
I've got this.
Yeah. Billy's like, no problem. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so they tell Billy to put enough dirt and whatever in there to stabilize it. So then we can move on to a new spot.
Well, Gary ends it by saying they'll have to give up on this one. And Jack says, for now.
For now.
Just for now. So.
And I put a note saying, where's Steve to mark this hole?
Steve, where you at?
I have a few places in here. I'm like, Steve, where's the prison pole of truth? Like, shouldn't someone be out there marking these big things? I guess he could go back and mark it, but I was concerned.
Hey, it's fine.
I guess Steve's allowed to have a day off, but
apparently like one or two a year, right?
That's it.
Whatever.
That's it.
Okay. All right. So we kind of had that.
We kind of had that.
We had that experience in the uplands. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about the swamp. What do you think?
Didn't they move on to they were going to move on to another hole? Yeah, I guess that is.
Actually, okay. So actually what they do is they move on to the swamp, but then they quickly move on to lot 17 and metal detecting, right?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just talk about lot 17 real quick.
Well, before you do that, because there's just something that I thought was funny, and I pointed it out to you, how so they go out to the eye of the swamp. Marty says the Oculus, like the eye. And
he's ready to make this full-fledged like adventure.
Yeah, and there was a Clotworthy flashback about, Gary doing his thing at the eye of the swamp, with his probe or whatever and his metal detecting.
Oh yeah, with the
and then there was also a flashback about the theory with Nicholas Poussin from Corian Mall and Christopher Morford, right? And so there was all that going on, and then you caught back to the them getting ready to do whatever they're going to do in the swamp, and Gary says, "Oh, I'm chomping at the bit, ready to do this, right?" And then then Clotworthy says, "Well, while they're getting ready to do this, Gary moved on to lot 17 with Rick." And then it literally has the camera on Gary, and he says, "Oh, I'm chomping at the bit to get to lot 17." It's like, dude, you're just chomping at the bit.
He's I don't know.
It was just funny that they used kind of the same.
Well, it's a Garyism apparently, because he must use it quite frequently.
I guess
he's
so.
Constantly chomping at his bit. Isn't it like really bad for horses to chomp?
Well, he's not a horse, so it's fine.
I know, but why's I don't.
I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
Okay, now we can talk about lot 17 because he turns on his magical metal detector and
boop, 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 boop.
Yep, and he goes and tries to find some stuff. What does he find?
So Gary and Rick go out there. Gary gets a hit.
Wait, why are they even detecting? They explain it to us that because of the recent hurricane,
yes,
that it's a good chance to find some stuff they may not have been able to find before.
It's kind of that sweet spot between the highlands and the swamp.
Yes.
Right.
Not the uplands, the highlands. Yes.
Yeah, the highlands. Because we got to include everybody in this search.
All those lands.
All the lands. So the lands between the swamp and the highlands. And when the hurricane brewed, hopefully it turned some stuff up.
Chomping at the bit.
Yep. And it's not a bit they find. They find, where'd it go? A large chunk of lead. Okay.
It was shaped kind of weird too.
It was. But we find a lot of lead on this island.
Yeah, it looked like
that's a relative term, but
a conglomerate of like a lead piece of slag or something. Like it didn't have like a real shape. It looked weird, but could it have been part of something bigger and it kind of got eroded over time or something?
Maybe. He said it looked bigger than like a sheet that Carmen Lake had pointed out would have been used as a patch. So it looked thicker. So maybe it wouldn't have been used for that. Sorry. And then what Rick points out is, okay, so we have lead. We've already got several lead pieces that we've had analysis done on. It'll be really interesting to see when they do the analysis and then compare it to some of the European deposits that like they did last year, if it's all coming from that same quarry.
Get that information over to Tobias.
Yep.
Yeah, so they got to get it over to, oh gosh, what's his name? Chris, I don't remember his name. The guy that does the laser ablation. So they're gonna ablate the crud out of it, right? And
they're gonna ablate it.
They're gonna ablate it. They're gonna get the data they can get out of that, send it over to Tobias. He's gonna do some analysis on it, and hopefully we get some at least geographical data where that could have come from, right?
Yeah,
Fingers
this is just as much an information search as a treasure hunt, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to get there without all the pieces. So lead keeps showing up. It'll be really interesting to see if it is really coming all from the same place. But that's exciting.
It'd be insane if it came from the same like quarry as Drayton's Cross.
That would say a lot.
Yeah. Be crazy.
But if it doesn't, that also says a lot.
True that.
True that.
All right, let's talk about swamp, huh?
Okay. How about starting with the eye?
Sure.
Because we get the shot with Rick, Marty, and Craig driving over to the eye, right? And Gary and Jack are already there. And my favorite quote from Gary, "It's time to look into the eye." He's ready for an adventure.
You could tell. He's always ready for adventure.
He's always ready for an adventure. What am I saying?
I just saw something on Facebook where I think he was in Arizona doing some kind of treasure hunting. Always up
Something,
for an adventure, that guy.
right?
Yep. Yeah, so we had in my notes here, I see that Craig and Marty
Mm-hmm.
were in the excavator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really cool.
And then I also noted that Billy had his first day off in 13 years. Because that's what happened.
Yeah,
That's why he
Billy
wasn't in the
Billy had
excavator.
a prior engagement.
Yeah.
So he's like, guys, I need a day off. That or he's just like chilling with Laird in the research center. He's like, I
No,
need some hot cocoa and
it-
I'm getting better.
it's his first day off in 13 years. He's just going to chill.
I feel like Billy can't just chill.
Yeah.
I feel like he's solving problems no matter where he goes.
Yeah. Marty asks Gary and Jack to check some of the rocks they've uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack thinks he's found evidence of blue clay. And to
Yes.
me, it looked gray, but it was like a bluish gray, I guess.
Well, we're seeing it on the TV versus
Yeah,
in real
I don't know
time
what blue, quote unquote, blue clay actually looks like, I guess. So,
versus gray clay.
yeah.
Well, one's probably blue, one's probably gray.
And you're just cray cray.
Cray cray and the blue clay. But obviously they've seen it more times. He notes that it is like really caked around that boulder. They call it like a conical boulder.
Yeah, then
right?
we get a clotworthy flashback of the how back in 1804 when they were doing their digging with the churro company
Mm-hmm.
and they found that blue clay packed at around like 40 feet, how it was caked on and to make it kind of watertight.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the theory. And maybe these were packed like that for a similar purpose.
Mm-hmm. Either to make it watertight or to keep whatever it is in place. I mean, obviously there's a reason that with the eye we haven't been able to drain it, and that could be a reason why. I mean, if you're keeping water from getting out of a particular area, but it's still really wet over there. So Jack's got the pump going, and then we see Marty and Craig looks stoked to be in the excavator. By the way, Craig seems all in. He's excited.
He's having a good season.
Oh yeah.
He's
I don't think Craig gets enough credit. He is a great cast member.
Oh yeah. Well, he's one of the, according to our trading card of Craig, he's a financier.
Yes.
He's the commander of the dig.
Yeah.
He's all in.
Oh, he's all in. He doesn't want to show his excitement, but he's all in.
Even though we can see it, Craig.
Oh yeah.
Craig, we see your excitement.
We see you can't hide from us. We start seeing kind of tops of things popping up, like the top of a boulder where Gary's like, I was straddling that. Yeah, that's a really big one. But then what I think is really interesting as they're kind of scooping this water out, they're seeing tree stumps.
Yeah, tree features, right? It looked like some of it kind of looked like branches, kind of like it looked really spindly, but
definitely roots.
Yeah, roots. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but it had the appearance of like branches. It was branching out, right? And those stumps were pretty I mean, it really impressed Robert Clotworthy because Robert Clotworthy said something about
a tree stump.
Trees don't usually grow underwater, or whatever.
Yeah, not trees like that.
Yeah, not like that. So, I mean, yeah, wow, crazy stuff.
That's
what are those doing there in the eye of the swamp?
And they're of substantial size. I'm very curious to see. I mean, they allude to there being multiple ones. And what I was gonna say is, I remember when we were going on the treasure hunt up at St. Helens, Mount St. Helens, and we were driving up, and we go past the Yale Reservoir, and I was telling you about that whole valley area actually used to be dry and had
artificial or like a dam put up to put water in there.
Yeah, so there used to be like a small town, a village where people lived in there. And as we were driving by it, I was like, wow, that's really eerie. The water's super low, and there was all these big tree stumps, like looked like there was a forest there, and they had been chopped down. Well, they would be like that because you would have taken them down, and then also they filled up that valley and were using it as a cut through, right? Because there's dams and they were flooding it, and those man made features and those trees would have been covered up.
Mm-hmm.
So at one time, it wasn't full of water,
Mm-hmm.
which actually made me think about the swamp. If you've got trees like that, especially of such substantial size, they were probably cut down for a purpose. And to me, proves further that the swamp at one time was land, and then you bring in the water and flood it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that, which we haven't got to yet, is Gary metal detecting, right? And there's a big old,
Piece of iron.
yeah, it's like an
Mm-hmm.
iron pipe in there. I mean, what do you make of that?
I don't know. They haven't told me what to think about it yet.
Well, okay, so what are your thoughts on just like the fact that there's a giant tree stump?
um. Well, I think that shows that at one point it was definitely solid land through there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I think uh I think it was two separate islands at one point, and that maybe even those trees maybe even grew after the land was filled in there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, don't know. It depends on when it happened. That's why we have Dr. Spooner coming next week, and he's going to give us
Mm-hmm.
some. He's going to give us the deets.
Do you think they'll be able to get dendro off of it?
I don't know. I don't think so. It depends because don't you have to have like a big chunk
Well,
for
you
that?
have to have a good cross section, and I'm just thinking if they find, substantially more, and you could pinpoint, you know, what age this tree was,
Hmm.
that could really be a big piece of information. That could be a make or break.
It could be really big, but they'll be able to carbon test it if nothing
Hmm.
else. But yeah, if it's big enough, if they have find a piece big enough to do the dendrochronology, that would be preferred.
Yeah, that would be mind blowing. I bet you there's a whole lot more as far as trees in the swamp. Well, and I'm thinking about original depositors. If they cut down trees of that size, they're cutting them down with the intent. It's easier just to cut down a tree that's on the island, mill it to what you need it to be, and probably fairly close to where your workings are. You cut it down, use it. Well, if they've cut down all these trees, it looks a little suspicious on the island.
Hmm.
Cut them all down from a similar area and then flood it to cover it.
Perhaps.
I mean, that makes sense, but the pipe in it just, like, it wouldn't
You think it's
leave
a
me.
pipe and not just a solid piece of metal?
Well, if you look at it,
Hmm.
it's hollowed out.
Is it?
Yeah,
I must have missed that.
I paused it, it's hollowed out, and I was going back to, some, because 'cause I've seen these before, and it reminded me of some of the of survey markers.
Hmm.
So, it used to be, at least in the US and in heavily treed areas when you are surveying land.
Hmm.
So they were using like townships and ranges, and anywhere that you are sectioning off,
Hmm.
and your corners of the property would often be marked by trees, boulders, and actually some of the markers that I was noticing look like those uh what are like rock walls that we've seen on the island.
Hmm.
Those would have been like boundary
Yeah.
markers.
Hmm.
And in witness trees, which are where we're basing all of the surveys off of, they would have marked them. One of the things they used to do is use, got it here.
Hmm.
So, an actual corner marker of a property may be an iron pipe, a gun barrel, or a rod driven into earth or a stone wall. Into a stone wall or a pile of stones, a cement post, or marks in stone.
Hmm.
When the marks they used to do in stone were squares, which also made me think of the G and the square on that rock.
Hmm.
They also used to do that with the original witness trees, is drive a stake or a gun barrel or like whatever it is into the tree and then mark off all the land. And I think about it, I think there's more survey markers throughout the property than we think about. Like I talked about the square with the G in it. We think about Nolan's Cross and how precise that is. And there used to be, so when surveyors long time ago would use trees that maybe that would stand around longer, right? And they would carve into the tree like this, like some numbers and letters that would indicate where the boundary marker.
Sure.
Do you remember? So the money pit, they're saying that there was all those different markers on a tree, a bunch of like what looked like Mason symbols when we were watching history. There, at least there was a legend that there was, and that's one of the reasons that it stood out. Well, if maybe the money pit tree was a witness tree, but you would carve into the tree, those numbers, in about, say, 10 years over the decades, bark would grow back over it, and it leaves like a scar on the tree. And then if you were to cut around it where that scar is and pull it off, you could actually see the numbers and such still. So I wonder if any of these trees in the area have these types of scars that have actually been grown over. And it was for surveying and marking off certain things within the island. One more tangent. Okay,
Here we go
so
again.
the money pit tree.
Yep.
Was said to have a pulley hanging from it. Well, witness trees or marker trees, what would happen is people would go in and they'd use, say, like a pulley or a rope to train a tree to grow, say, a certain way where it comes up, over, and kind of curves. It's very possible that that tree was intended to be a marker and the pulley system was actually left and affixed to the ground to try to get it to grow a certain way as a marker, as an indicator of either where to start or where it should have been. But it would have broken, and that's why it would have been hanging in the tree still. That's all I got.
This is where I insert my Bill and Ted meme of Ted saying, "Whoa."
I feel like there's got to be other survey things. Like, I really think this pipe is in regards to surveying and the work that was done there. I feel like Steve should be able to solve this mystery because he is
no pressure.
The royal cartographer.
Yep.
I feel like he probably has some good survey history knowledge.
I guarantee
right?
that, yeah.
I just want to say, have they investigated trees for these particular scars?
Perhaps.
And if that one tree was a marker and they had based everything off of it, they cut it down, they use it, and nobody can find it again.
Whoa.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Okay, I'll stop.
That was, you kind of schooled me with a lot of that information. So good job and thanks.
I spent a lot of time studying survey stuff in real estate.
Yeah, that's cool. Two things. I got a lot more from that, and I have to process a lot of it. But two things that are on top of my mind after hearing that: the pulley with I like that a lot. That's really good.
I could show you pictures. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I know, like Native Americans, probably Native Canadians too. Is that a thing? Indians in Canada, are they Native Canadians?
I guess.
I don't know.
We'll just call them all natives.
Yes. They would bend the trees, to
on the trail.
Yeah, as more of a markers than really survey, but
that's just it.
Yeah,
that's
it's the same kind of
marker.
thing. Yeah. So they would, bend the branches or bend the whole trunks to look like a weird,
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And so I like you saying that perhaps the pulley and rope and everything could have been tethered to the ground and just popped up one day because it just broke or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a neat idea.
Well, you think
never considered it before.
Gonna walk away? Yeah, because it seems really stupid to say, "Oh yeah, this pulley will still be here and we'll know to come back," but they would know it would break eventually, but if they're like, "Okay, we have the ship, let's take the pulley system, we'll train one of the branches to come off
Hmm.
and in this certain direction," and ta-da, like, that would be an indicator, and, tell them where to go, but some of these trees, I don't remember what it is, it's like 2 slashes is to take a right or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Are some of these markers still there?
it's a good question.
Because you go out, what if there's some of these markers, you go out there, you cut it out, and when you pull off the bark that's grown over the centuries, you get a reverse image on the other side of it.
Yeah, wow.
So
You've given me a lot to think about.
I'm throwing it out there because there's so many things. It even in one of the articles I was reading, it talks about the rocks with the drilled holes in them
Hmm.
and them being for specific survey markers when you're indicating corners of a property or where
Hmm.
you're turning. So those that have gone back to establish original towns and such are looking for those. Well, we've seen these drilled
I
holes
know
into
that was my other
rocks.
point I was going to bring up is
Hmm.
these drilled holes. So,
Yes. And they would have been done, I believe, off of compass bearings.
hmm,
Well, what if the compass bearing that you're using is like what I was talking about when Nolan's Cross that
hmm,
runs on that same axis,
axis. Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Of the as the church does with the west being the entrance. But if you're going to use that, why not? And we had another rock feature that looked like a sextant, which would have been also a survey indicator.
The triangle,
Mhm.
the all the rocks that are kind of on the south shore near where the money pit was.
Mhm, and they
Yeah.
got lost with Dunfield's
Yeah.
excavation, but
Stone
even
triangle. There you go.
yes, the stone triangle,
Hmm.
we have, like I said, with the G in the square, I mean, the G could also be part of what we talk about, the great architect and the masons, but it could also be, like, the first letter of a surveyor's name, and he's the one that made that mark there, and you're taking your degrees off of that particular square.
Yeah, like this was Gerard,
Yes.
his mark.
When Gerard came through and did the survey, that's what that is. But I was really blown away when I saw these stone walls as features with boundary lines.
Hmm.
There might be more indicators in those stone walls.
Perhaps. Yeah, you just like boom goes the dynamite on this podcast with all this fun
Hopefully nobody's
speculation and
turned it
knowledge.
off
No,
yet
I
because
like it. It
they're
was good. It was real good. You know what's funny though?
hmm.
So I have some notes about this section or this part of the show as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read them all to you right now, real quick. Okay.
Okay.
My notes about this metal thing in the rock.
Uh-huh.
Gary finds a big clump of iron, perhaps a rod, connected into the stump. That's it.
Okay, so I've created an entire theory about witness trees and
Yes.
like the entire survey of the island and how this was set up. And
Yes.
you were like, look, a rod in a tree.
Basically, yes. That's it. Pretty good, huh?
That's, I don't know if good was the term I was going with,
Hmm.
but my, this all started because I thought, "Oh, okay, they just cut down trees in this swamp area to make what they needed
Hmm.
and then flooded it to hide it."
Hmm.
But to me, the rod, it blew my mind because 'cause I've done so much research on surveys and old relocated towns and real estate. Maybe I should get into surveying.
Maybe.
I'm like, I'm gonna go find old trees with stuff in them. Yeah, they leave like these really cool scars, and sometimes they call them cat faces, some of
Mm.
them, because they
Mm.
look like they have like cat ears.
Mm.
But keep
Okay.
an eye out when we go onto the island if you see some of these things.
Well, when you saying that right there makes me think of Fandango and the
Mm-hmm.
cover of that book. How there's a couple of Oh, could be a cat face, could be an owl face on these trees in the art. This is it. Sorry, guys. Side tangent. This is
Mhm.
about a treasure hunt we're working on.
Mhm.
But the front cover of this book, and the book is called Fandango, The Key to the
Mhm.
Wind.
Mhm.
And there looks like what you're describing on the front of this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. Another thing is they talk about how okay, so the holes in the rocks being an indicator, but also those eye hole things,
The eye
right,
hole?
that are
Are those next to
screwed
the ice
in for
holes?
pulling up treasure. They also used to run wire through them
Mm-hmm.
in order to figure out these boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they're saying looking for the drill holes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can locate all these different ones, and I don't know, I feel like they could still put wire through them. I feel like there's a lot of okay, I don't know. I've never been in the island. Hopefully in May, because yeah. And let's just map it out with all this survey stuff.
Map it out.
Yep, I'll bring the metal detector. Let's go find some metal in trees.
Map it out.
Map it out.
I think Gary's got you covered with metal
Yeah,
detectors.
I'm
So
sure he does because I really don't want to try to take a metal detector international.
yeah, well, that was very enlightening.
I just took up probably like a half hour of the
Not
podcast.
quite, but it was good. So
Good.
thanks for sharing all that stuff that you've
Hypothesized.
and that you've well and stuff that you've learned. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not just all a theory. It's like there's fact in there too. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you bestowing that upon me and upon our listeners. So thank you.
Welcome.
Hmm.
I'm happy to bestow it in the war room if they ever want.
Yeah, we usually don't talk about our chat room
Uh-huh.
that's going on right now during the podcast, but we have a chat. We have a message from Agnes that says, "Deidre, I am blown away."
Boom! Ghostly dynamite!
Yeah.
See,
So
sometimes I say smart things.
often,
Other times I say weird things.
you probably don't get enough credit for the smart things you say. So you did good. That was a lot of fun. Right or wrong, it was enlightening. So thank you.
I'm here to enlighten. Okay, what else do we got from the swamp?
Yeah. So, like I said, Gary finds a big clump of iron.
Hmm.
That I'm gonna boil that whole thing down to that.
It could even be a gun barrel in the tree. It says
It
they
could be.
use those. I'm just saying.
Mhm. Well, isn't that what Gary and Maddie Blake found in the ground
Okay,
a
but
long
that
time
was
ago?
like a play gun from,
No. Well, they found like or maybe it was like
or it was
I
a
thought they
piece of
found something
pipe.
that could have been a barrel of a gun. Oh,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago. Never mind. All right. So Jack notes that the stump looks like to have grown on top of boulders too. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
boulders like underneath. So that would have been tree eating boulders.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Which we're
from
very familiar with.
yeah, because it was a clue on the map of the dead map of the dead breakfast tea and bourbon treasure hunt. Sorry, we have too many treasure hunts. We do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But it's not like, I mean, that's a normal occurrence.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean,
Yes,
trees growing over
rocks. Sure.
rocks. I
Yeah.
mean, that happens.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be funny to present it to you that way because of our past experience with
Yeah.
these treasure hunts. All right.
That was my first thought, was it was a tree eating boulders.
Yes,
Boulder, yeah. Trees that eat boulders.
that's right. All right. So Gary says that they are close to finding that Hail Mary find.
Hail Mary. I think that is a Hail Mary find. I just don't think they know it yet.
I bet you they know it now.
Yeah, they probably do. I mean, this was filmed a while ago.
Well, probably after listening to this podcast,
Oh,
then they'll know.
once I publish it and then we ensure that everybody listens to it and goes and checks all the trees,
Exactly.
because I have that kind of power. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's too bad they couldn't get that, or at least they didn't show them trying to extract any of that piece of iron,
Mm-hmm.
because the next place that the show goes in this episode is on a field trip
Field
to St.
trip.
Mary's University to talk to Dr. Krista Brugeau and Dr. Sean Yang.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
What do they do there?
Well, who goes? Let's see here. That's Charles, Craig, and Alex
Mm-hmm.
out on their road trip. And Alex presents her with the metal stakes.
Is it just me, or has Alex been like on almost every field trip? Like he often goes to these places. You know, I thinking about it, I guess he didn't go to do the dig at the for the 90-foot stone at the uh
Museum?
museum.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, other than that, he's been almost every one of these. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like.
Apparently Alex is good on field trips. Maybe his back takes the long drives very well, and other people are like, I'm good. I'll just stay here and play in the dirt.
Maybe. It's not that far to Halifax.
It's like 50 miles, I think, is what Sir Robert of Clotworthy says.
Something like that.
Something
Give
like
or
that.
take.
Yes. And he goes on the field trip. He shows them to her. She's like, wow, these are really clean, right? They're in good condition.
Yeah, and she knows that they're old from the way that they're manufactured and the rose
The rose
head on the spikes. Yeah.
It's just they're perfectly square. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the way they're made. She's very familiar with that and
Yep.
wants to know what they want to do with them.
Well, they want a elemental analysis, right? And they stick them under this electron microscope that can zoom in about 200,000 times, that we're told.
Yes.
So that's pretty crazy.
It's bananas.
And they detect phosphorus in the iron objects and that they brought, and that means that it's pre-1840. If nothing else, it means that it would be manufactured prior to that time, because they were able to remove the phosphorus from the metals after that time period. Like, it wasn't a technique that they developed before 1840.
Yeah, and it has to do, let's see here, what did I have down? Because one of them shares that happens when the fire that they're using is not as hot, which would like burn out or whatever that, what do I want to say? Whatever that process is. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's also more difficult to get it that hot on Oak Island if they're making them right there on the island. And we've found metal slag and things like that. So it just, that's really fascinating to me, and I'm curious to know more about that process. I'm sure Carmen Legge could also.
I'm surprised they didn't take him to him for another opinion.
They just might be in such good condition because they have to have, I think Sean says, a clean spot in order to really take a good look at it, right?
To do their analysis.
I bet you they stop there on the way home and take them to Carmen.
Hey, Carmen, how's it going?
I feel like it's on the way home. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. So they get what they can from the team at St. Mary's University, and they're recommended to continue, like, to look into Europe for more information regarding, these spikes, right?
With Tobias he says they have a connection in Europe.
That doesn't necessarily mean Tobias. So.
Well, no, but they said they have connections over there and trying to see if
Tobias was the one doing the lead, not the iron, as far as we know.
I bet you he doesn't judge against iron. I bet you he could help him with some research there. Maybe.
Yeah, Alex was saying he thinks this is original. These are original pieces to whatever happened on Oak Island many years ago. So.
Yeah.
And Craig is always excited about new finds and techniques that'll advance the search and knowledge.
Of course. I mean, all of us are. At least I would hope.
That's Craig in a nutshell.
But yeah, no. You hit the nail on the rose head.
Basically.
Yep. And after that, on their way home, probably after talking to Carmen,
they're thirsty.
Or
hungry.
So they got to stop at the Mug and Anchor, and they got to share their results. Yep. And they bring them in, and Marty's there, and they show them. When Alex shows it to Marty, I think it's interesting that he says, "Oh, I would assume this isn't very old, Alex, because of the condition." Yeah. And he's like, "Well, actually, it is very old.
Yeah, it's definitely prior to 1840. Yeah. Something before we get into what they talked about, there was one thing that I really noticed that stood out about Alex and Craig joining them at Mug and Anchor.
What was that?
Where's Charles?
Yeah, that's true.
Where did you go, Charles? He's like, they're getting close. Gotta go
move some stuff around.
Yeah, gotta go protect some secrets.
Gotta go protect some secrets.
Just kidding,
Maybe Charles just wasn't thirsty and he needed to get back to the interpretive center or wherever to do some work.
True that. He probably did. You're right. Yeah, so I just thought that was
Yeah, I
a
did
little
think that
funny.
was a little
Like,
odd.
why isn't Charles there?
Maybe Charles was like, maybe none of the camera crew was available, so Charles is like, I got this.
Oh, so he's behind the
Yeah,
camera?
so he's
Oh,
behind the camera.
perhaps. All right. So Rick explains that the old search, what like artifacts that the old searchers found, they would just be like, meh, whatever, and just throw it aside. They didn't care about where it came from because they knew tomorrow they were going to find the treasure.
Well, of course.
You know, so anytime they came across that, and that could be a reason that something like this was in basically spoils from more recent excavations or tunneling or whatever.
Well, they also didn't have the ability to get this type of analysis on it and even take the research another step further. So why would they care?
They won at that time, and yeah, I mean, what can you do? All they could have done is written it down, like found a couple spikes today, set them aside, right?
Yeah, yeah. Found 2 spikes. Ta-da.
Ta-da! So, Gary mentions the dendro finding Dendro finding that dated to 1741, and that triggers a clot-worthy flashback. That's in my notes. Why did Gary bring up Dendro suddenly? Do you know why? Because like that seemed random to me when we're watching the episode. It looked like Rick was talking about people throwing stuff aside, and then suddenly Gary was like, "Oh, let's talk about Dendro," and I'm like, "What brought that up?"
Maybe
Maybe I missed something.
they're talking about Dendro kind of the same way I was. Because if they're talking about anything found near the swamp,
Hmm.
and because we don't see their entire conversation naturally, maybe they're talking about Dendro with some of those trees and trying to figure out the dating there.
Yeah. Well, I think it had to do with because they were trying to talk about how old these things were,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about 1741 here in relation to the dendrochronology. Maybe he's just suggesting that those spikes would have been made around the same time.
Yeah, he's just lining up that we keep getting some good dates.
Yeah.
That's probably it. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. And then Marty kind of finishes up that talk with saying that there's no point in stopping digging in the Smith's Cove / Uplands area. So let's go back to work and keep digging, right?
Yes. But I got one more thing to say.
Oh, what's that?
I told you there was a fashion thing I
Yes.
wanted to address at the Mug and Anchor Pub.
I've got one too.
That's good. You go first.
Well, mine was it just has to do with the secret treasure hunt because I like to talk about these treasure hunts. Is the what is it? The waitress. She goes and I think delivers some kind of drink or something to one of the
The
guys.
beers.
Yeah, but she had a like a flower on her lapel. Yeah, a poppy. Um, I guess they probably recorded that either somewhere around Remembrance Day, and that's November 11th. It's Veterans Day here, right?
Yeah, right around there, I believe.
And like in Canada, Remembrance Day, and there's one of the treasure hunts for the secret features a guy that is wearing a flower in the same area. And I think it's a connection because this treasure hunt is for a treasure hidden in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And I think that that's a clue to get you to look at this memorial at this park that is like the central focus for Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
And I just saw that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks just like it doesn't look exactly like the flower on the guy in the painting for the treasure hunt, but I mean it's very reminiscent.
It's very close, and even where it's pictured on that image.
That caught my
Anytime
eye.
one of those poppies come up on someone's shirt, Dustin will pause it and say, like, I think something important's happened. He's like, no, come here, look. I was like, yes, I see it. You don't need to pause it. I know what they are.
It's just what goes through my brain. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, mine's more relevant.
Okay, let's go back to Oak Island.
Okay, so Dave's sitting at the head of the table. He's got a sweet hoodie.
Oh yeah, I
Right?
remember.
He's got an Eagle Canada logo on like the lapel area, and then the sleeve has the Curse of Oak Island like logo on the sleeve. I was like, that is a sweet hoodie. There is too much awesome swag going on over at the Curse of Oak Island.
Yeah,
So now I need to track down an Eagle Canada hoodie so I can be as cool as Dave.
it was a pretty sweet hoodie. I would rock that thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
it was done really well with
Mm-hmm.
the gray and then just really kind of basic with the logos. It's a nice little nod. And I bet you a lot of people at Eagle Canada wear them around. They're like, look, look,
I'm part of this show.
I'm part of
right
this
here.
show. I'm a
Yeah.
cool kid.
Yeah. You really enjoy all this swag, all these pieces of
I know.
yeah, these
The Gerhardt stuff, the Cog
yeah, you want
stuff.
all of it.
Of course I do. And I'll wear it on all of our live streams all the time. I'm like, look, I got my swag. I need like a Gary hat.
Oh, not a Cogs hat?
No, I need all the things
Mm.
because I'll wear them all.
Well, I
That's
think
how
Gary
I roll.
sells his hats on his website. So.
Really, because I couldn't find it when I went.
Okay, maybe not his hats. I know he does shirts.
I know he does shirts, but I was hoping for a hat so I could be just as cool. But
Impossible.
Yeah, no one's as cool as Gary. Anyways, carrying on from the fashion, which only I care about of the island.
You don't. It's cool. It's fine. Have your thing. Your thing. That's fine. All right. So we finish up the episode basically back in the swamp.
Back at the eye.
At the eye of the swamp.
To be precise.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom joins them. Tom Nolan.
It's always good to see Tom Nolan.
It is. I was excited.
I wish he was around more. I know he's probably got his own life, his own business and
another
stuff.
job.
Yeah, but I mean, he's fresh into the fellowship, right? Mm-hmm. So it was good to see him.
It was good to see him. And they're sitting there digging in the eye. Billy scrapes the top of what looks to be a huge rock.
Yeah. Something that I noted that was going on right before Billy starts scraping those rocks is Rick pulls out his phone and he shows him that star overlaid on Nolan's cross. That's back to the theory by Corey and Mull and Christopher Mumford about the Nicholas Poussin's paintings that led him to the Eye of the Swamp. It was cool to see that make a comeback. Whether it's real or wrong, whatever, it was cool to see them apply that stuff and show him like, hey, this could be a reason why we're so interested in this area. Even though we're interested in this area anyway, this could be a good reason for it to be here or whatever. Rick called it an elegant theory.
Yes, he uses that word, elegant. And nobody talks like Rick. I mean, he talks elegantly. So
he does.
For him to say something's elegant, that's saying something.
Gary tells Billy that he needs a surgical strike. And in my notes, I said, Billy's like, oh, please.
Right.
Like, come on, what else do I do?
I was going to say, and what's different? Like, Billy's always surgical. Surgical Billy. Surgical. It's impressive.
Yeah, so he finds that huge boulder, and they note that that thing could be like bigger than the Nolan's Cross boulders. Like,
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, very, very large.
But then, like, they see these large boulders, and then a lot of like small stacked rocks around it, and it's kind of that, okay, we should probably stop because this looks done on purpose. The way they're laid, I mean, you're seeing like little pieces of granite, you're seeing all it reminds them a lot of the paved area. And maybe that is connecting our paved area to the eye. I mean, we've been talking about that for a while.
It very well could. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, I wasn't expecting the paved area to be a part of the eye. I was expecting it to lead to that point and then the eye be something else. But I mean, who knows? Maybe it is a feature. Maybe it's all connected, interconnected. Yeah. Don't know.
It feels like everything on the island has to be interconnected in one way or another. And you know what my next question was?
What's that?
Because they said, stop, Winnagity and Spooner. Where is Steve to mark this? This is important. Where Steve wasn't out there marking the tree.
Maybe he was there. Maybe he was like doing something else on the island. Okay, you want him to be here. You want him to be there. He can't be everywhere.
He has to mark the stuff. Yeah. I was like, someone go grab the prison pole of truth.
Okay, Steve, what if he was out at the money pit hanging out with Terry, doing whatever? We didn't see what Terry was up to this episode. And Terry's working too, right?
Well, I did say he had to go mark where the hole was being dug.
Yeah, maybe he was on his way over there to
maybe
mark
he's
all
just
that.
kind of making up, like coming behind everybody to mark their findings. I was just very worried this was going to go undocumented in my type A personality.
Tom Nolan even stopped Rick a little bit. He's like, hey, my dad would stop here. He would, mark it all out, get locations on everything. So,
well, I know that
it's okay.
That was me thinking Tom's going, where's Steve? That was my first thought.
He was
as a son of a surveyor, he's probably going, someone go get the surveyor. Go get the surveyor. Billy, halt.
Don't worry about it.
I mean,
they got it under control.
Well, I'm sure they do, but I get worried about things.
Yep.
Ovs.
Yeah, well, it was fun to see Tom. He was noting that he wouldn't have expected to find all this under a bog. Maybe do you think that because we all call it the swamp, do you think his family grew up just calling it the bog?
I think they only call the eye area the bog because he said that is, or they, everybody else called it the pond, but that was the area they could never get drained.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yep. And this is about where the episode ends because the last thing we hear is Rick wants to call in Dr. Ian Spooner to tell him if the boulders were placed by man or not.
Bring in the doctor.
Swamp Doctor, incoming.
It's go time.
Incoming.
Swamp Doctor. Are they going to drop him from an airplane?
He's like parachuted
I could
in.
totally see him parachuting it. He seems like the guy that would have a lot of fun with extreme sports or parachuting into the island.
Perhaps.
You could land on top of the war room and be like, guys, I'm here. It's just Ian. No problem, guys. It's no big deal.
That's funny.
I make everybody's personality up, apparently, in my head.
Yeah, did you have anything else to talk about in regards to the swamp?
No, just next time on.
Next time on The Curse of Oak Island.
Whoa.
Well, Dr. Spooner did dive bomb into the swamp, apparently, because he's there, and he says that there's no doubt at all that someone was digging in this area a long time ago.
Yeah, and he's in that exact spot where we were.
And guess who was there with him?
Steve was there.
I noted it. Steve
I felt a little better.
Was there. Steve and Rick and Gary were present with him when he's doing this work.
I saw him looking at his little thing, going doot, 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 doot.
Yeah. So stop worrying.
I know.
You worry about nothing. These guys have it under control.
No, the problem is I worry about everything.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
I do trust that they have it under control, though.
Yeah, and then we go into the war room, and we have I still can't remember that guy's last name. Chris, the guy that does the laser ablation.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, he is off camera saying that the artifact has a lot of mercury in it, and Charles is there saying that Sir Francis Bacon had done experiments using mercury to preserve documents, and that's what you're super interested in.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's your grand prize out of the money pit is ancient documents.
Right? Oh yeah, ancient documents. I don't really want Shakespeare's documents. Just anything else would be great.
I want all of it.
Well,
I want the Ark of the Covenant though.
Well, yeah, but we could put documents in the Ark.
There you go.
I mean, we got to carry stuff around. Maybe
you think they packed the Ark with blue clay to seal it? Probably.
I never thought about that, but why not?
Why not?
I mean, at this point, it's like so in Masquerade, another treasure hunt, when he hid the golden hair, it was actually he dipped it in hot wax to keep it from being damaged. And it's something that's been done before in other precious items because you can always get the wax off. So you put it in wax and then you use a cloth, a cheesecloth or canvas or whatever, seal it up and then dip it in wax again and then put it in in this thing it was like a lead or clay or whatever. This very well could be maybe the Ark is dipped in wax and covered in
blue clay,
canvas and blue clay and wax or whatever it is to protect it. You could get that off.
Cheesecloth sounds yummy.
Please don't eat cheesecloth. Okay. You will really regret that.
Yeah, I know. All right, so then next time on the Curse of Oak Island finishes in the uplands. The dig continues. There's an overhead shot and a voiceover of Rick saying to dig as deep as you can. Rick appears to be untethered, and Marty looks to be tethered in this clip. Terry Matheson is on hand, untethered, right?
Well, Rick ends up being tethered as we went back and watched. Okay. Marty's tethered. Terry's like, nope.
Don't need it.
Don't need it.
Yeah, he's on hand, and he says that the wood they're pulling out appears to be hand hewn, and says there's 1769.
Terry is standing there with a giant log in his hand. And then he's pointing, saying that is 1769. I'm going, why is Terry holding a giant log? That is not a walking stick. That's like, hey, I've got a piece of lumber here that I'm holding.
It's probably waterlogged.
It's a waterlog.
It's a waterlog.
That's good. But he is very sure of the date there. That's crazy.
I guess we have to tune in to find out more about that. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Yeah, so Billy says that they've struck something, and it shows Marty tethered, laying down, saying there's wood on the left, and he thinks that they found a tunnel, and he's pointing that away or whatever. Yeah. He's just pointing.
Okay, if you have Marty on the ground in a harness near a hole looking that excited, this is a big deal. I mean, Rick will harness up and go look at whatever, but Marty, I feel like these last couple episodes, Marty's almost gone full Goonies lately. He's all in.
He's all in. Yeah, the transition is complete.
Yeah, Freaky Friday, it's happened. It's
Marty
permanent.
is now a Rick. That's just it.
Oh, hardcore. Epic.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was the episode. It was good, right?
Oh, it was fantiferific.
It was really good. I am looking forward to next week's episode as always.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, that was good. And hey, I really appreciate all your insight into that survey stuff.
You are welcome. I appreciate your insights and willing to listen to me ramble.
I hope we can talk to a real surveyor one day about it.
Someday.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday in May.
We'll see.
Hopefully.
As long as we get to fly.
Oh, I sure hope so.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else to chat about concerning this episode?
I don't think so. Unless you had something.
No, but what do we roll into usually from here?
We usually roll into our Clotworthy moments.
Oh, Clotworthy. Who won last week?
Woo! I don't know, Dustin. Who won?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I totally forgot to post
the Clotworthy failed
moments. My bad.
Again.
I know. I'm such a punk. I don't know.
So what he has agreed to do, friends, is set an alarm on his phone.
I'm gonna do it right now while we're talking about it because I haven't done it yet.
So he has his designated time to set up Clotworthy moments each week. So it's a reoccurring alarm.
But that means we have to commit to doing the podcast before a certain day. Oh,
I know. You and I have talked about that.
Okay, so I'm going to set it for noon on Friday. That's tomorrow. I'm going to try to post the Clotworthy moment today, but if I forget, I'll have this to remind me for tomorrow at noon.
I really hope you can pull it off because we are chatting about it right now. So what we're doing, I'm going to, because I'm so kind and forgiving you for this.
Thank you.
We're giving him a clean slate, guys. I mean, you can give him a hard time.
So who won last week?
Don't know because nobody put it up. So it couldn't be voted for.
They both won. Congratulations to both Clotworthy moments from last week.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Okay.
Oh, my headphones just came unplugged.
It's okay. You don't need it to. You just need it to hear, not to talk. So it's good.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we going to do this week? Are we going to actually have a Clotworthy moment that people are going to be able to vote upon?
Yes. Vote upon.
Yes.
They are going to vote upon one of two Clotworthy moments.
Okay.
Here's the first one.
Let's hear them.
A possible tunnel at a depth of some 60 feet and located in the uplands just south of the nearby cave-in pit.
That has everything I love about Clotworthy moments.
Oh, I know.
I love that. That is okay. I don't want to skew the voting, but I love that kind of Clotworthy moment.
I know you have these weird expectations about Clotworthy moments, but
that has everything in it. That was just beautiful.
It was beautiful.
That was so good.
You're okay. Well, then let's see how it holds up to this one.
Okay, let's hear
it. A tree stump In the swamp?
Okay, so obviously I went on a tangent about the tree stump, so I couldn't help but make sure it was in there.
It's a good one. It's short and sweet, which is fine. I like the other one. Well, okay, I'm not going to say which one I like. I just did, but my bad. I take it back.
Okay, well, I like the other one better. A vote for a tree is a vote for me.
Okay. Okay, you weirdo. All right. Well, those were both great Clotworthy moments. Thanks for sharing them with us. And this week you'll be able to vote if you go to Facebook, www.facebook.com/Oak Island Podcast. There will be a post there with pictures. You click on the one with the log or the stump, right?
Yes, the stump.
And then what was the other one about?
A tunnel.
And then the other one will have a picture of like a tunnel or something.
It's your favorite.
I just like the way that he delivered it. That's my favorite part.
Good delivery.
He always delivers everything great.
Suddenly.
So you remember a couple of weeks ago we had like the narrator from a different country. Was that England or something? Yeah, because it's not Robert Clotworthy. I wonder what his Clotworthy moments sound like.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe someone will share it with them, one of them with us sometime.
Yeah, maybe they'll share a tunnel and a tree stump. I'm kind of curious as to who delivers the tree stump how.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, I thought you were going to say better. I was going to say,
not better. I'm curious. I mean, narration's going to be different, but it's got their own style.
Yeah, true that.
True that.
So you could order. You can vote on Facebook, like I said before. Find us at Oak Island Podcast or Twitter. There will also be a way to vote on Twitter, and that's at Oak Island Pod on Twitter.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. And if you just want to connect with us, we are also on Instagram at Oak Island Podcast. We're also on YouTube, and it's Oak Island Podcast. That's the name of the channel. Surprise.
And this week we do have an email, right?
Yes. So we've got an email that we want to read because it was fantastic, and I'm sure y'all are gonna love it. What else do we have? Oh, I know we've had people talking about the cards and wanting to order. So we've been sharing our ones that are coming up for March. Those ones, we're doing the superhero for the fellowship, and Vanessa's card has been revealed, and so has Doug's. And if you want to make sure you get your cards for March, just go to patreon.com/Oak Island Podcast. As long as you get signed up this month, you are going to get the 6 trading cards that come to you in March. Now, as far as the last set of cards, you can still order, you can buy those. You can buy them through our website, which is OakIslandPodcast.com. There's also a link on our Facebook for you to be able to purchase them that way. If you have any troubles with it and you're still trying to get a full set for a friend or something, let us know. We'll get it figured out so we can get them ordered.
Absolutely. All right. And I was looking for the email.
Yeah.
Did you say anything about our pregame?
No.
Okay. Well, every Tuesday evening, an hour before the Curse of Oak Island begins, or Drilling Down, if there's a Drilling Down episode, we do a pregame live stream where we talk. It's almost just like this, except for we like do a lot of we read every single comment in the chat, and we talk to the chat about it.
Yeah,
right?
we talk to the
if
chat.
They have questions. Yeah, we talk to chat, right?
Yeah, it's really casual. We speculate what's going to happen on the episode, what we were excited about, how people's weeks have been. Yeah, it's versus when we're sitting here doing the podcast live, we don't really interact with the chat because we're pulling this audio to use on our podcast feed.
Yeah. So if you want to come and hang out with us on Tuesday evenings, please do so. And that's just, you would go to our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Oak Island Podcast, right?
Yep.
And so an hour before the show starts, we just chat about whatever. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's just a fun thing to do.
It's a great way for us to interact and get to know you guys.
All right. Yeah. And so this email was sent to us. And if you want to send an email,
it is a different person.
gmail.com, right? It's OakIslandPodcast@gmail.com. And we got this cool email from our listener named Bill Holsinger. And he says, "Hello, Dustin and Deidre. I just finished your recent podcast on Could It Be? and it was another success.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah. I love the idea of dropping a giant bear down the big hole being dug.
He means a Costco stuffed bear, like we were talking about.
Yeah. This is an excellent idea, but something that would be easier to pull off would be to drop a 3-inch Darth Vader or Yoda toy down the hole and see Jack discover it. Or if it was metal, it would be great to see Gary's face when he finds it. We might even hear Robert say Darth Vader found 120 feet below the surface. Could it be? Deidre, feel free to use this idea as your own. Boom.
Goes the dynamite.
Love listening to you too. Keep up the good work. And that's from Bill. And he is an Oak Island enthusiast from Ohio.
Okay, we're not encouraging anybody to do this, but it would be hilarious.
Yeah, so last week we talked about how they're going to put in the new caissons, and use the 8-foot caissons and the hammer grabs, and be funny if somebody threw a couple of like big stuffed Costco bears down there, so that when the hammer grab goes and picks it up, it'd be like a claw machine picking up a giant bear. I mean, come on, that'd be hilarious. And I love that Darth Vader idea. I think that would be hilarious too.
We were going on about the best April Fool's jokes for Oak Island, right? Talk about some glitter bombs and like.
No, that would be terrible. Don't ever do that to anybody.
That's hilarious. You're in the excavator, you turn it on, it's like, and then you see the whole inside full of glitter. It's like, where'd he go?
Okay, Billy already has enough going on in his life. You don't need to make extra work for Billy.
You
said Billy, excavator.
I know, but Billy was gonna play it on Marty, and that's why he was gonna make it green and gold glitter. So Marty like got in his excavator.
Yeah, and then Marty's like, "Hey, Billy, you got to clean that up."
No,
you're just making more work for Billy.
He tells Scott, "Go find someone to clean this up," because Scott's in charge of finding people to do the stuff.
I don't know. Something tells me Billy gets stuck with the job.
Maybe Billy likes glitter.
Maybe, who knows?
But my idea, what we were saying, is put a giant stuffed bear in the claw and then lower it in and keep it there, and get Marty and whoever to come out and be like, "Oh, I think we got something," and then all of a sudden the bear is coming out and it's like, "Hey!" You can put like a Darth Vader mask on it or something.
I see Jack like having a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
Jack attack, heart attack.
Jack attack.
Right there, man.
Can you imagine? Oh, that's a good one. And all of a sudden this bear is like hanging out, and it wouldn't be so dirty because you put it in the claw and you don't put it all the way down.
I like the idea of just throwing it down there and then the claw like going down and picking it up.
Not for the bear, for Yoda. If we like fill it with lead or something, and then that way, Gary's gonna metal detect it or whatever, then it comes out and it's like, Yoda
deep inside the money pit.
Yoda.
Yeah, that would be pretty
only
funny.
if Robert Clotworthy does a Yoda voice though.
Okay, now you're asking too much.
Yoda, because it would be so little.
A baby Yoda. Yeah. So anyway, those are the ideas that we had for April's Fools, right?
Yeah. So
we just want to say, Bill, thanks for the email. That was hilarious.
Thank you.
So thank you.
We really appreciate it. And if anybody on the island listens to it, we've got all the jokes ready for April Fool's Day if you need ideas.
Of course. All right, so that was our show.
Yes.
If you want to call us, you can leave us a voicemail sometime. That would be great too. You could do that at 360-836-4549.
Yes, we always appreciate that. If you
Instagram,
I already shared about Instagram.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, while you were looking for the email.
Okay, good.
If you like us, please subscribe. That helps people find us, and leave us a 5-star review.
Oh yeah, we haven't asked people to do that lately. So if you want to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those places, leave us a comment on YouTube. Why not?
Yeah, we got a place for reviews on
Facebook.
We got all the places.
Yeah. So if you want to leave one of those, great. If not, that's cool too. Just keep listening. Share the podcast with a friend.
Yep. Tell a friend.
Hey, we were this close from I think we were number 7, for after shows in the after show category for Canada, on the Apple Podcast list. And if we're number 7, we're this close to number 1. If you're in Canada, share us with a friend. USA too works. Anywhere in the world is fine. But Canada, we're this close from being like a #1 podcast. We'd love to have that on our mantle.
On our mantle.
I would take a screenshot, frame it, put it on our mantle. We were #1 for one day.
On a mantle.
I just want to be #1 for one day.
But
somewhere.
number 7's important.
Yeah. Well, we were #3 in Norway once. That was awesome.
Is there more than 3 podcasts in Norway?
There is. We were number 75 in Norway once. So we were ahead of a lot at one time.
Oh, well, look at us.
Yeah. Hot dog.
Hot
so,
dog.
Yeah, and support us on Patreon, patreon.com/OakIslandPodcast.
Yes, I went on about the cards.
I know. So I think we're good. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
I don't. I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend.
Yeah, stay safe. And if you, if you're out and about, wash your hands so that we just don't spread this nasty virus that's around. It's going around, there's nothing that can really stop it, but just anything
Besides
you can do
your hands?
Yeah, just wash your hands. I wash my hands like 50 times a day, right?
Yeah, you filthy animal.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? I think we're good.
Nope, that's it. So until next time.
Could it be
time to look into the eye